Oh, hello everybody. Welcome to our lesson on Napoleon builds an empire. Our objectives and standards explain how Napoleon came to rule in France and to analyze how Napoleon was able to establish a French empire. Take a look there at the standards. And our desired result, how did Napoleon build a French empire? So our background to Napoleon, he was born in 1769 on the Mediterranean island of Corsica. His parents sent him to a military school where he became a lieutenant in the army. And he's going to join the army of the new government when the French Revolution broke out. In October of 1795, he defended the delegates at the National Convention from Royalist rebels, and he's going to be viewed as a hero throughout Paris because of this. He then will have a lot of military success. In 1796, the Directory appointed him to lead a French army against Austria and the Kingdom of Sardinia. There he won many victories. He's going to struggle a little bit more in Egypt. They're going to send him to Egypt to stop the British from trading with India. But he's not going to be successful in his attempts to do this. But even despite this, he's going to still be hailed a hero as well. Excuse me. So the rise to power. The Directory in France was losing control, and they were also losing the faith of the French people by 1799. Now, while Napoleon's in Egypt, he's going to be urged to seize power by some of his friends. In November 1799, Napoleon and his troops surrounded the national legislature and drove out the members. The lawmakers who remained there voted to dissolve the Directory, and they then established a group of 3 councils, which included Napoleon. And Napoleon quickly takes control of the title of the first council, and he pretty much becomes a dictator. So taking control. This sudden seizure of power is known as a coup, from the French phrase coup d'etat. Now France is still at war with Austria and Britain and Russia, and they joined together to drive Napoleon from power. He actually led his troops on the battlefield, and after the war and some diplomacy, peace will be formed. Europe will be at peace for the first time in about 10 years, and with that, Napoleon is kind of free to focus on France. Napoleon leads. In 1800, a plebiscite, or a vote of the people, was held, and they voted on a new constitution. However, what they didn't really realize is that this new constitution gave all the power to the first council, Napoleon. Napoleon, he wants to keep many of the reforms of the French government, of the French Revolution, but he also wants to create a strong central government. One of the things that he does is he established a system of tax collection that's going to be very efficient, and he also created a national banking system, and both of these are going to help balance the economy. He also wanted to fix corruption. Napoleon aimed to rid the government of corruption, so he dismissed corrupt officials, and he established something called lycees. Lycees are government-run schools, and he trained government officials there. Now, Napoleon and religion. Clergy and many peasants wanted to restore the position of the church in France. Napoleon's going to agree to this, and he's going to sign something called a concordat, or an agreement with Pope Pius VII. It established a new relationship between the church and the state. And one of the things it did was it did recognize that the church has some influence, but it also rejected church control in national affairs. So it basically said, listen, we understand the church has some power and some say, but in terms of national affairs, it doesn't have a say or influence. Now, it did gain Napoleon the support of the organized church, as well as the majority of the French people as well. The Napoleonic Code. Napoleon believed that his greatest success was the comprehensive system of laws known as the Napoleonic Code. It gave the country of France a set of laws that were uniform and eliminated many injustices. But despite some success of it, it also limited liberty and promoted authority over individual rights. So a lot of things that the French Revolution fought for, or was trying to represent, are going to kind of be limited by the Napoleonic Code. One of the big ones was freedom of speech was restricted, and slavery in the French colonies was also restored as well. In 1804, Napoleon decided to crown himself Emperor of France, and the French voters actually supported this. He walked down the aisle on December 2nd, 1804, in a purple velvet robe, something like you see similar to that there, in Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. Thousands watched as the new emperor actually took the crown from the Pope and placed it on his own head. So he actually crowned himself, which was definitely a signal that Napoleon believed he was more powerful than the church as well. Napoleon is not just happy with controlling France, he also wanted to control Europe and gain power excuse me, power in the Americas. He knew the key to this was the sugar producing in the colony of Saint-Domingue. The Colonial Revolution. When the planters in Saint-Domingue learned of the French Revolution, they demanded the same equal rights, and eventually enslaved African Americans demanded the same rights as well. Now a civil war is going to erupt between the enslaved African Americans and the planters, and they're actually going to gain control of the island. Napoleon actually sent forces over there, took control of the island again, and established the sugar production again. However, the French are going to be devastated by disease and island fighters. And unfortunately, the French troops are not going to be able to stay there. Now, Napoleon also made a deal with the U.S. He decided to cut his loss in the Americas after the failure to retake Saint-Domingue, and he decided to sell the Louisiana Territory to the United States. The United States is going to accept, and they paid $15 million for the land, and Napoleon sees two benefits of this. One, he could use the money that he just made to build up operations in Europe, to build a European empire, and the United States could now also stand against Great Britain in terms of power, so Great Britain cannot reconquer the United States, since the United States is now strong enough, he believes, to hold off the British. Here's a picture of, maybe you've seen this before, the picture of the Louisiana Purchase that we got from France. The conquering of Europe. Napoleon turned his focus to Europe next. He already had the Austrian Netherlands and parts of Italy, and he had actually established a supportive government in Switzerland as well. Now, fearful of this, Great Britain persuaded Russia, Austria, and Sweden to unite against France. And Napoleon's going to accept this challenge. He's actually going to win many battles, kind of a military genius, and he was constantly keeping his enemies on their toes. Now, eventually, the conflicts are going to force Russia, Prussia, and Austria to sign peace treaties with France. And Napoleon lost only one major battle to the British at the Battle of Trafalgar, which was a naval battle. So the French Empire is going to reign. There you can see a picture of how big the French Empire was in Europe. Took over a lot of land. Besides the territory he conquered, Napoleon also controlled other areas such as Spain and sections of the German kingdom. Now, some other countries also had leaders or loose alliances with France. That's why the French Empire was so big. Now, the French Empire is huge, but it's very unstable, and the collapse of this will actually be caused by Napoleon himself. So, wrap up here. Napoleon has big ideas to create an empire. He comes to power through the military and through the government. He uses his military skills to conquer Europe. You saw how big the map was. And the French Empire, even though it's pretty big, is pretty unsteady, and eventually it will fall due to Napoleon. So please take a moment to try your best on the questions following the lesson, and I'll see and talk to you guys soon.